This episode of Outdoor Journal Radio is brought to you in part by the Invasive Species Centre, protecting Canada's land and water from invasive species. Freedom Cruise Canada, rent the boat, own the memories. And J&B Cycle & Marine, your home for all things power sports, boats, and equipment.
Outdoor Journal Radio.
Thank you.
They like you, eh?
Down. Thank you.
They like you, Ange.
Wow, I appreciate that.
Hell yeah.
So obviously it's not for you, as you.
I haven't had it. Nobody.
Wearing a new shirt today.
Come on now.
I haven't seen you wear that one.
Oh,
No.
yeah. You could tell when see the little crinkles on it there?
Yeah.
How many
It's got
washes
some
they've
miles
had.
on it.
Yeah. More days behind it than I had of
You
it.
do your own wash?
Hell no.
You don't?
Sometimes, but not very often.
I wash mine
Yeah, I know.
sometime.
I know.
Not too often.
My wife is very, very good, diligent at that stuff. She's the ultimate wife. She's just the ultimate wife.
For a welder, she's not bad.
Yeah.
You should keep that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to teach her how to do some electrical. Be good.
You'd be all
A
set.
little AC/DC going on. We're all right. Good.
Welcome to the program. He's Peter Bowman, Vova, Nick, and Dean.
Come on now.
As per usual, I'm Angelo Viola. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of things. We're kind of in between gigs. All right, we're in between gigs. We're not. We're. I'm getting confused in this.
We got
whole
one
thing.
down, but we got a lot more to go.
So we.
Why are you confused?
Well, because now I'm trying to think. I know we did one of these. The last one we did was on the road.
On the road again?
Two of them.
We did two on the road.
Those
Hawk
on the
Lake,
road.
Cedar Island, both.
Hawk Lake and Cedar Island.
Yeah.
Now, this
Cedar
one,
Wings.
are they playing in order or how does this work?
Yeah, the people have seen those now.
They have seen those.
Yeah.
We're past Hawk Lake and
Yeah.
Cedar.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now is now.
Well, because
And next will be Buck, probably.
you see, I'm confused because the TV shows that we're doing now are for 2026.
Right.
The podcasts that we're doing on the TV shows are playing in 2025. And then we have this podcast, which is 2025.
We're pretty diverse, Ange. Hey, around here. We can do it all here, bud.
Man. Oh,
Yep.
So we thought we'd kind of take this opportunity to kind of group back together and figure everything out. Some great news stories we're going to talk to you about. One is in particular from the East Coast that we need to deal with.
Even that one from Eagle Lake, they're both kind of
you're
important,
right.
right?
You're
You know what I
right.
mean? They're
Huge.
both. So it's funny how, and we'll get to them, folks, but how negative news always has that big impact. Great positive news is okay, good, that's good, okay, let's move on. But it's the
Negative
negative
to
stuff.
some, positive to others.
Right.
Because every news story has two sides,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The side that you are on and the side that somebody else is on. So, and both of these stories have got two sides. Make no mistake about it. It's a bit of a
Absolutely.
slippery slope in both cases. And
Absolutely.
And we want to talk to them in detail.
You're right.
But first, just want to, if you haven't noticed, the nice black and white. We are
Black
very
and white.
simple black and white today. The black,
Michael Jackson, right? Michael
That's
Jackson
right.
did a song
That's
Black
right.
and White.
That's right.
I think.
That's it. Outdoor Journal Radio T-shirts, which are very popular.
The podcast.
For those of you who listen to Outdoor Journal Radio or watch it on YouTube, for that matter, religiously, it would sound and feel and probably mean so much more if you were doing it outfitted like Mr. Bowman.
And
on now.
you probably look a lot better than me in it too. That's
that's
I
for
might
sure.
say so.
And then for those of you Fishing Canada fans, this is the retro look logo that was, I think it was put out the end of 86, if I'm not mistaken.
is that the
sometime.
absolute original? Is that the very first of all first?
This is the very first is the red, white, and blue version of
right.
this logo.
Right.
But then shortly after that,
You said we're not Americans.
exactly,
They ain't no
and
American.
turned it
Friggin'
into
Trump.
red and
Trump
white.
did that, didn't he? Trump would try and turn that back to you right now, I think.
A really big logo, as he would say. And then we went to the catcher limit and catch your limit, but limit your catch.
It's easy for you to say.
That's what's on here. So anyway, just thought we would, that's all available on fishingcanada.com along with a plethora of other goodies, hoodies, other T-shirts, and just a variety of other things.
New products. A variety
New products.
of new products.
There is a new, I have it on good authority, there is a new species hoodie coming out. Ooh, it was a bit of a setback. In fact, while we were on the road at Eagle Lake, we got a proof to look at.
It's a long time ago at Eagle Lake.
Not Eagle. The Eagle's in the news.
Hawk. Close, though. You're
Very
a raptor.
similar.
Very rapturous lake.
Very similar.
Yes.
And it wasn't quite right, so we had to make some adjustments.
Really, eh? Oh, yeah, I did see that one, the mock-up. Yeah, it was a little,
Cartoonish.
Yeah, we need to keep with this type
we
of
had to
deal.
send it back, and that's hopefully what we'll end up with here at some point. FishingCanada.com, the gateway, the portal to your next fishing adventure.
Yeah, indeed.
What else is out there? The news is there on FishingCanada.com. We'll talk about that in a moment. But first, listener feedback.
You can take the poll, too, by the way, and tell us what you want to see.
Tell us about
right?
the poll. I keep missing
Well,
that.
that'll be Dean to tell us, because he knows more about it, but they can take
Dean?
the poll to tell us what
Yeah.
What's with the poll?
Yeah, we have a poll on the store right now to try to figure out what people want to see there. We've been running it for a while, but we always want the feedback, like especially when we first open the shop, when people go there, we're not quite sure what they're expecting.
Yeah,
But we still want to know,
why not?
is the shipping your concern? Are you looking to see other products, or we just want to hear from
So if we
everyone.
got a majority, not a majority.
Is it
let's
a
say-
multiple
let's say
choice
10
thing?
people.
Yeah, it's multiple choice.
Let's say if 10 people they had a comment and said, "I want to see a pike hoodie." Would we consider that? Do you think? Or was it-
Sure.
yeah.
But we don't have that as a question. That's
No, I
why
know.
I'm making that comment.
I'm
You can
saying
type
they can
your
leave a
own thing in
comment.
there.
They can
You
leave a
can-
comment in there.
Oh, you can?
Yeah. If you type the last box, I think it says other, and then it gives you an option.
And you go nuts.
And do people do that?
Some people do.
So, but the vast majority just don't. right?
Robots do it and
Oh,
submit
bots
all
like
kinds
that,
of stuff
yeah.
into that.
There you go, everybody. Beat the bots and put in your little thoughts and words. Put your thoughts and beat the bots.
There you
That's
go.
right. It's a good slogan.
Write that down. That's usable. We can make it like that's a bunch of bullshit. Don't lose.
Everything we say,
Don't
everything
lose
we
those.
say, we can make a T-shirt out of it.
Damn right. Got to make a buck somewhere, for God's sake.
Oh, God, I hear you.
Listener feedback. Hurley Lock 6460 via YouTube.
6460.
In response to, but this is what like I'm confused.
Oh, poor Dean. Here we go.
I am so confused because it says here in my notes that Hurley Lock 6460 via YouTube in response to, and then you've got his.
I typed it in
his-
white. That's why you can't see it.
Yeah, he
I
had that
picked the
invisible
wrong-
like ink. It's code.
Yeah, I picked the
Code
wrong.
only for
wrong
certain
color.
certain people.
But it's supposed to be in response to our announcement that we are officially going barbless.
Thank you. There you go. So in response to the fact that we at some point, because I don't ever know what's now and then and past and future.
Yes.
At some point, we did say that due to a chance meeting I had at the Toronto Sportsman Show with an audience member.
Never got his name, eh? Or you didn't get his card or
I
anything?
got his card.
Okay, good.
But you know what the problem with that is.
You don't know where you put the card.
And what I do remember is that when he gave me his card, I said, I really appreciate this, but the chances of me finding this card when it's meaningful
Or
is
as good as
zero.
Pete Bowman would find it too, right? Because we won't find that kind of stuff. Now, was he a fan also of the podcast? Because if so, he's listening right now and he could get in touch with us. It was just a TV
All
guy.
I know is that he said, due to buying in to you guys on the Fishing Canada show, all my camping equipment is made by Coleman. I wear my life jacket religiously on the boat. Like he went through the whole thing. He says, you guys, when you say you're doing something and you mean it and do it, I buy in, as does most of the audience, were his words. So that being the case, you guys are still harping on catch and release, which he said I bought into. The only thing we need to do now is to really facilitate a little better catch and release chance of the fish living is to remove the barb from our hooks or to bend them down. And it just, we've talked about this for eons. We've fished in fisheries that
We've
are
done it,
barbless.
yeah.
We've done it
Many
ourselves.
times.
And we
Many
always
times.
say, man, this is so much easier without the barb, both on the fish and you, the angler. And then we just go on our busy lives and forget about it. Well, he said, you guys did such a good job of boat safety with the life jackets. You did such a good job at catch and release, period, to convince us all to put fish back. Why don't you take that final little tiny step and get rid of the barbs on your hooks? We'll get rid of the barbs on our hooks, and the world will be a better place for the fish. And he said that, and man, it just resonated with me. I don't know why, but something happened. And I said to him, Bill, Frank, Bob, whatever his name was,
Jimmy,
you're on to something, and we are going to do it. We're going to do it. And
we didn't. I don't think we've succeeded. We've tried our hardest, but we haven't succeeded well enough with the life jacket thing. That's for sure. It's because I think Billy, Bob, Jimmy there is a rare one still to this day. There's not. Let's be honest. We have not brought the majority to wearing life jackets all the time. No way.
I think I'll disagree with you. I think
you look
the
out there,
hardcore
anglers wear their life jacket when they drive the boat, and then they take it off to fish.
Not all of them.
A lot of them. The hardcores, a lot of them, if they wear it at all.
Well, let us know. See, he thinks that it's not working. This gentleman that I met at that show said that it was working.
Yeah, because it worked for him.
And
for
he
sure.
in turn has convinced all of his circle of
That's
people
what we need.
that whenever they're on the water,
Billy, Bob,
they wear
Jimmy.
a jacket. Nobody goes on his boat without a life jacket on. That
Perfect.
Because you guys do that, I'm doing it. I think that there's more of those than not.
Yeah, I got lots of ideas I got to talk to that guy about. Well, if you can do it all, we could we could set some good stuff up.
Some good stuff.
In the future.
So that's why when he said the barbless thing, it just made sense. It makes sense. So we're going to try it. We've launched it. So far, we're batting, I think, about 60%. It's a very difficult thing to do, unless you get total buy-in from the whole group here, and we start munching down our barbs on all of the baits that we have, and just make it mandatory, which we should, which we may still. To try and do it out in the field while you're fishing and pulling out new baits, and something just happened. It's just hard to do.
Sometimes you go brainless. You just go.
Exactly.
And absolutely. That happens
so
all
I
the
think
time.
the only way that it's going to work is the same way that we did with life jackets.
We got a whole box of barbless hooks in the boat right now.
There you go.
Matter of fact.
That's a good place for them.
A bunch of them.
It's like having
ready to go.
It's like having
RTG.
life jackets at the bottom of the boat.
Well, no, this is one step closer to the edge.
Okay.
I'm about to break.
Anyways, did we even read the?
No, not even a word yet.
Okay.
On and on and on and on and on.
In response to that,
poor Hurley.
Hurley is saying, I think fishing barbless is like everything else. Use your life jacket, for example. If it's not government mandated, we will have minimal buy-in. And I've been saying that for years.
I just said about the life jackets.
Yep.
Minimal buy-in.
Yep. I know where my life jacket is at all time, but it took years for full buy-in. If fish barbless,
I fish
barbless about half the time, and it's one of those things where I think about it'll pinch down the barbs about half the time he thinks about it, and I don't. I will say, though,
that's exactly what you said there.
Yeah. I will say, though, that if you have good technique, and I would say even more importantly, good rods and reels, I don't, anyways, and match to the fish and bait for using, I think your catch rate is the same. Thank you, Hurley. Thank you. Because that's what I've been saying all along. You mentioned lake trout may be difficult, but that's the fish that I use barbless more than any summer and ice fishing, and I rarely lose a fish. I can't comment on bass because I live in Alberta and never had an opportunity to fish for those. I like your challenge to fish barbless, and I will also put forward a better effort to fish barbless, and I personally would support a mandate for barbless, but not before a life jacket mandate.
Yeah, good point.
Get it done, government. LOL.
Good point.
Wonderful. That's one of the nicest, best letters we've gotten in a long time.
One of the bestest.
I agree on everything you said.
Yeah.
So,
God, I wonder if that life jacket thing will ever go in yours and my lifetime of our boating
mandating.
times. Yeah.
Mandating is the only way it's
I said, will it be mandated? I don't think so. It seems to be stalled.
And yet it's so ridiculous when you think about it. You can't drive your car without seatbelts on.
Yeah, and that didn't take long to fix up. They did it, and it was done, and now everybody does it automatically. Don't even think about it.
I'm kind of surprised because it would bring in a lot of money, too. Like how many people they would fine right off the bat for it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm surprised they wouldn't. Like, they seem to want to fine people for things.
Maybe that's the problem. I don't know about that, but maybe that's the problem. Maybe some bureaucrats are looking at it and saying, "Oh my God, are you serious? How are we going to patrol that?"
Right.
That's what they're thinking. However, what they're not thinking is that it would be so much easier to monitor that than it is now. Now, in order to find out if you comply, which means you have to have a flotation device in the boat for every one of the people in the boat, you have to physically go, stop the boat, instruct everybody on what they're going to do, have somebody open up all the compartments, pull out all of the flotation devices, make sure that they're all coordinated with the people that are in the boat, and then make a decision whether this boat or boater complies or not. With the new mandated rule that could go into effect, you could have a guy with binoculars scoping a whole lake almost and seeing right away who complies and who doesn't. And then dispatching somebody, okay, there's a blue runabout over there, no life jackets, get them. Done. But now they can't do that. They physically have to stop you. And that is a lot of time.
Sure
What,
it is.
15, 20 minutes by time to start to finish?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
As opposed to just saying, hey, he doesn't have life jackets on. Okay, boom, you're done. Write them up. You don't even have to check the boat. Hell, you can write them up in advance of approaching them. Not that I would suggest that, but you know what I mean. It'd be so much easier.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. We've all been pulled over. A lot of us, everybody in this room's been pulled over before for checking the boat safety. But I don't know if it stopped them pulling over because I get pulled over with my life jackets on. You got your lights.
Yeah,
you
get
got
pulled
your
over because
flares.
they want to talk to Peter Bowman.
I had that one time. That was
That's
cool.
the only reason.
That was
they pull
awesome.
over.
That was a copper pulled me over and he says, "I know you're good. I got a life jacket."
Bromance for you out there. Is that Peter Bowman? No way! On the Fishing Canada show, I seen him on TV. That's why they pull you over.
Yeah, that's why they pull me over. Especially the good-looking female cops. Yeah, that's
Oh my.
Exactly.
Interesting in his comment in that comment too. He mentioned he's from Alberta.
Yeah, Alberta bound.
And Alberta has a lot of, I think they're far ahead of some of the other provinces in terms of conservation and catch and release and management, fisheries management. I'm surprised there aren't more barbless lakes in Alberta.
Obviously they're not because he says he does it about half the time. If he was a law-abiding citizen doing this, he'd be doing it all the time, right? So it must be
good point.
certain lakes that don't have it. I would assume. You're right. Remember all the walleye stuff? They were lake by lake doing different limits and watching. Remember they were checking every boat coming out of at the boat ramp there, checking all the boats coming out.
Were they not barbless, those lakes we were on?
I don't think so because you caught one without any bait on a hook. No,
was there? Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was. I don't know if I think they were barbed because we were using those preserved minnows and they would never stay on without a barb.
Right.
Remember?
Right.
Those chunks of meat that would just they'd fly right off.
Food for thought. We're certainly going to attempt the 40th anniversary season, which will start early January of 2026. We will start attempting. We're not going to hit 100%, I don't think. Well, I know we're not going to hit 100% right now. Yeah. We're certainly going to talk about it more, and we're going to strive towards eventually hitting 100% on the barblessness of our baits.
Barblessness.
Barblessness.
Do that 5 times as fast as you can.
So thank you. Barblessness.
Faster.
Hurley Lock, 6460 via YouTube. Dean, does he get anything for that wonderful question?
No, there's no question mark on any of it.
Oh, Hurley. You're not too burly.
He'd have won that. He'd have won that for sure. Yeah. All right.
It wasn't really a question. Really. It was just a good comment. It's a very lengthy good comment.
Oh, my. Here we go. Conservation Corner brought to you by the good folks at Invasive Species Centre. Why are you guys laughing? I'm very serious
your
about
presentation.
this.
Just the way, your presentation. You're very
We're going to
good.
talk about one of my favorite species to hate, and that is the grass carp.
Yeah.
It has completely occupied my life over the last couple of years.
Has it?
Totally. I am so concerned about this. I'll tell you why. Because I think now we're getting close to having more angler encounters with these things. I believe.
Wow. You're clever.
I believe.
You're
If
clairvoyant.
it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
This year?
I think this year. Before
Wow.
the end of this fishing season, we're going to have
Like
some
one or two or
reports.
lots, do you think? What's your feeling on this deal?
My feeling is that some would
Less
best
than 5?
describe it.
Less than 5 for the year? 2025?
Less than 10.
Less than 10?
Yeah. Which is very significant.
It's huge.
It's It's massive.
They had 8 or 9, that'd be huge.
And the reason being, for those of you who may not know, obviously the grass carp is an invasive species that is threatening our natural species, such as pike and walleye and bass, both species of bass, even panfish for that matter.
Trout species, everything.
Everything is affected by them for the simple reason that they will consume their body weight each and every day in vegetation, which is essential to those other species for a multitude of reasons, not the least of which is for foraging, of course, reproduction, protecting itself from other predators. Well, when that vegetation is gone, as we've seen, for example, on Lake of the Woods with the rusty crayfish.
Another beast.
Right, another beast. And what have they done? They've mowed down the vegetation so that they could better see their prey.
Get rid of that. They've forested the whole area. That's it, deforested the whole area.
Isn't that bizarre?
It's crazy. Wonder what would survive more. If you had grass carp, zebra mussels, and rusty crayfish. Those are the only 3 species in a lake.
Well,
who's going to last the longest?
Well, let's look at that. So grass carp consume vegetation to survive.
But they also consume, don't they take zooplankton a bit too and all that stuff?
A bit.
Dean?
I don't think intentionally. I think
vegetation.
It's
they just
that's
filter
their main,
feed, right?
Yeah.
When it goes in.
Their main source of food is from vegetation. That's why
zebra
they mow
mussels
it down.
are zooplankton.
Exactly, and the little crayfish
are
eats
vegetation and crayfish.
He eats other He doesn't eat vegetation.
But he kills it though.
He kills it so he can see
But
crayfish
that
to
kills
consume.
the food of the grass carp.
Exactly. So let's look at that. This is like that contest. You put a gorilla against a rhinoceros. So
I saw a water buffalo, Cape buffalo against a rhinoceros the other day.
Yeah.
Cape buffalo was pushing him around, then all of a sudden the rhino says, "Okay, piss on this." Just flipped him over like a pancake.
I think in this case that the rusty crayfish would be the eventual winner. My opinion.
He would benefit from everything else going on.
Think about it. By mowing down vegetation, he's starting to affect the grass carp. Right?
Yep.
Eventually, he would affect the grass carp because grass carp's
off.
He's outsourcing the work.
Right.
So he can do whatever he wants while the grass carp does its thing, and then it moves in
and eats the other crayfish in the area. There you go. So rusty crayfish would win that battle.
And then what about the zebras?
It's funny we're talking about 3 invasive species.
That's what
Isn't that bizarre?
Yeah.
Zebras probably would hang in there because there's got to be zooplankton.
They'd probably be the longest of them all.
Probably because there's got to be some phytoplankton, zooplankton, whatever that will survive a poor vegetation world.
There's going to be algae blooms. There's going to still be something like that, I would think. Maybe. I don't know.
There's a movie there. There's a movie to be made there. Just waiting to happen. But anyways, in the meantime, we as anglers can do our part. Very simple. Just arm yourself with all the knowledge that you can about grass carp. Understand where they would live, what they prefer, how they feed, most importantly, what they look like. Because a lot of us probably would have a hard time identifying them out in the field, right?
Yep. Go to asiancarp.ca. I'm on there right now. You get all kinds of pictures, and there's all kinds of Andrew's just talking about habitat, this side, that, the other size. You can learn a whole lot about grass carp on that site.
That'll it for that. This episode is brought to you by Sail. Sail is proudly Canadian and stocked with over 100 Canadian brands you know and love.
From rods and reels to sonars to kayaks and every last lure you've seen on the Fishing Canada show, Sail has all the gear to get you on the water.
Drop into one of 12 stores across Ontario and Quebec and talk to the real fishing specialists, or gear up online anytime at sail.ca.
Sail, the ultimate destination for your outdoor adventures. We interrupt this program to bring you a message from Anglers Leaderboard, an AI-powered platform built for today's anglers. Use your phone and the photo measure board to automatically detect length and species, log catches, and track your stats over time. Whether you're fishing solo or joining a regional tournament, ALB helps you stay organized and competitive. Head over to anglersleaderboard.com to learn more and start using ALB today.
Now, this segment brought to you by J&B, your outdoor superstore. JB is Cycle Marine, Ontario's largest Princecraft Mercury dealer. I'm saying in the land. I know that there are some discussions about that ongoing right now as we speak, since
in French
we've ordained them as the largest. Thank you, Dean.
En français, monsieur. Ce n'est pas correct, Angelo.
And I'd like to hear if anybody out there would disagree with that comment. I'd like to know. I know of a couple that are maybe as large or larger in Quebec, for that matter.
Yeah, I know one that would be, but
unfortunately, they're not our partner, so therefore I'm not even going to mention them. Isn't that awful for me to say that?
Ontario's largest. We know it's Ontario's largest.
That's right.
We know that for a fact.
JNB Cycle and Marine. Now, if you're looking for them on the internet, because they do have some great value and packages on the internet that you can either purchase or at least get all the information prior to making your purchase. The URL is JB. Sorry, there's no and, right, Dean?
Yeah, there's no and.
There's no and. So it's jbcycle.com. Is it JB Cycle and Marine?
No.
No. See, they've
JB Cycle.
completely changed their name for the URL.
It's got to be easy, right? Just like you made it sound there.
Just like a what?
Like you made it sound there real easy. They're going to redo their whole website now. God, and she got it in front of him and he can't get it right. Holy shit.
jbcycle.com.
You got her, buddy.
No and no marine.
No, dropped a lot of stuff out of there. Should be just JB. They probably had that, tried for that, but it was taken. JB.com.
Maybe, I don't know. Anyways, this segment is brought to you by JNB.
Those great
folks
people.
At JB. All right, and the story is led by Eagle Lake Conservation Group, Eagle Lake Resorts.
Oh, boy.
I didn't even know there was an Eagle Lake Conservation Group called Eagle Lake Resorts. They're local businesses and angler Steve Herbeck and Cal Ritchie.
I believe they've been on the Ugly Pike podcast.
Steve Herbeck is major in the muskie world for sure.
Legendary.
Like major leagues. So, and from up in that area, right? Obviously, muskie capital of the world too, up in that area, right? Northwest Ontario for sure. But Eagle Lake is right in there. So,
anyways, they've posted a slogan that goes, protect the tradition, preserve the challenge on Eagle Lake. Although I'm sure starting there, it will spread out in other areas. And it's all about either eliminating or controlling the use of forward-facing sonar.
correct.
And we've gone down this road before in the last year.
My God. Time and time again, buddy. We're on it all the time, right? We're defending it because we use it, but some people are totally against it. And this is especially for open water, deep muskies. That's the big concern, right? Because these are fish that normally, if you caught them, you would do just random trolling. You get them on your side finder too. You can see them, and nobody ever complains about that though. And you can see them very well on your side
Or
finder.
even on traditional.
Exactly.
How many muskie anglers to this day are just on traditional? And
Absolutely.
they can pinpoint a muskie anywhere in the watershed.
Absolutely. Mark a waypoint, come back to them 5 times
Boom.
to the day.
And eventually catch them.
and
We know
eventually catch
one who does it on a regular basis. He's made a living out of it.
I talked to him today, as a matter of fact. So, yeah, and about that, too, about the fact of traditional for muskies. So, but you don't ever hear complain about that, do you? So, it's kind of...
So what's up with this? What is up with this?
I think maybe for not the Herbecks of the world, because these guys are so good and all that, but for this person that just wants to go out and catch muskie, and for the first time in their life, they don't know how to handle the fish maybe, or they're somewhat amateur, and they're going to go out there and start picking them off like pros, is what they're thinking. I don't know.
Okay,
and then do they handle the fish right? And,
okay, but that's post catching the fish, right?
Yeah,
This is all taking place pre. Do you honestly believe that a good muskie angler, armed with either traditional or side finding equipment on his boat, is any less apt to make contact with that muskie than the angler who's got forward facing?
Well, to be honest, yes.
You do. Well, tell me about your feelings. Give me your feelings. Open up. Give me your feelings. It's like pulling teeth out here.
That's not my feelings.
Give me
it's
your
my
feelings.
experience.
What's your experience?
My experience with forward facing is the simple fact that you are looking for fish, and you are looking for them in a big, vast area compared to the side finder. Yeah, it's a big, vast area. It's all behind you. It's all this is anywhere you want. In front of you, beside you, behind you, the whole 9 yards. Suspended, close to the bottom, close to the surface. It's very easy to see fish on forward-facing sonar. So that's the difference.
Traditional is history. That's the problem with it. Side finding is that it's not in front of you.
See, traditional's not history.
It's history.
No, we used it on lake trout last week, and it worked great on lake trout.
But that's
Fantastic.
only because we were able to stop
That's right.
and deploy our forward-facing, in this case, facing downward, our live scope.
I myself thought, by looking at both screens, that the traditional was actually better and more effective than the live scope was on those stationary lakers. because those ones that are high up that come around the boat, you can see them when it comes under the boat. Well, there's other ones that you're looking at on the bottom. Whoosh, you come up that 30-footer and you pop them like that. So I think there is still a good place for traditional. And of course, traditional is great for driving your boat and finding structure and safety and everything else, right? You know what I mean? You have
For
to
sure,
have
for that.
tradition.
But I think from a fish catching standpoint,
Yeah.
It's history only in the sense that your information is coming from back here
Like I
sometime,
said,
both in
history,
time and
yeah.
position, right? Whereas
gotta
your
go back,
forward
right?
facing is anticipating what's about to come. So
Yep.
that would be the only. But my question is this: do you honestly believe that a proficient muskie angler is less apt to catch that? Because first of all, you have to have a fish in that environment. You have to. There is a fish there.
Correct.
If a muskie angler who knows his stuff, his or her stuff, is using traditional sonar, do you think they are less apt to catch that fish which is in that environment? Both scenarios has the fish within that environment. Do you think that muskie angler without forward facing is at a disadvantage versus the one who has forward facing or live scope?
You're seeing in that area. I don't. That's not what they're talking about. They're talking about these open water roamers. These are talking about this big area of 500 yards. If you got an area of 500 yards, you're gonna be able to do a better job with forward facing. You are. You know that.
Well,
you've used it a
yes
thousand
and
times.
No. Yes and no. My point is that in order to get that fish in the boat, it ain't going to get done with forward-facing sonar. It ain't going to get done with traditional.
That's the next
It
stage.
ain't going to get done with any of the above. My point is, you got to have the parts first.
Of course.
Right. We're talking muskie.
Right.
Right.
We're talking about locating fish.
Of all fish, I think, personally, I think this is the one that we really need to think this out before we just start throwing. We need to ban it.
Absolutely.
Because there are other species, as you and I know, where I think it's going to become an issue at some point, like smallmouth bass and like walleye, because I think forward-facing sonar is a huge
Those freaking
advantage.
walleye. Here, very quick story on that. We were fishing on Pipestone? Pipestone Lake last week, and Ange and I were in the boat, and there was a pod of about 7 or 8 walleye sitting on live scope, and this is going to prove the fact. They were sitting there an hour of fishing these fish, and we couldn't catch one. It was like, let me throw a slip. I told Dean, we threw a slip float over top of their heads with a nice little leech.
And we could see them.
See them?
They were there.
They sat there and do nothing. Okay, how you doing there, Bowman and Viola? Have a good day there.
So that's the point I'm trying to make.
I know.
Right?
See, you could locate them, but you can't catch them. Maybe.
Exactly. You still have to put them in the boat.
Yeah.
And
by the way, they were using that picture. That guy, that's Captain Mike, a muskie expert, and that's some Lugan that's obviously using forward-facing. So that's our picture.
In the news story.
In the news story.
Wow.
Dean found that today.
And what are they saying?
They credited Ontario Travel.
Yeah.
So they must have had that in their brochure or something like that. So look at that.
The point I'm trying to make is, by the way, it looks like I'm ready to set the hook here, or I've just set the hook.
Or you farted.
Somebody needs to let me know when that's about to happen.
Or you had a couple of wobbly pops, maybe, tied into that maple whiskey or whatever that shit is you drink. Blueberry.
There we go.
Blueberry pie, whatever that is.
So we're everybody seems to be jumping on this forward-facing sonar, and I would like to ask, if possible, are these people familiar with what this is?
I think a lot of them don't use it.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I hear more criticism from it of people who don't have it than do. I feel like the issue with the muskie guys with this is that they're hearing about people who are getting into muskie fishing who don't need to really cut their teeth on getting skunked 100 times and then finally figuring a lake out. Like they're kind of skipping a little bit of the learning process. Mm-hmm. And I think that makes some old school muskie guys kind of mad. Like these guys learned a lot about these fish fast. They didn't have to go out and get skunked a million times.
That's part of muskie fishing, right?
Yeah.
That whole effort. I always said they're the hardest core anglers in the world. Those guys are in freshwater. Let's just say those guys and girls nowadays. They go out in November, December, freezing, busting ice to get out there, throwing those baits or trolling or what, just freezing their butts off all day to get a follow and then say, oh, that was a good day. Maybe tomorrow will be a little better too. You know, that's a hardcore angler to do that right there. So here's the points. The points in this thing is that don't sharpshoot deep water fish. Avoid targeting fish with forward-facing sonar in deep or open water. These fish are at risk to more stress and injury, such as barotrauma. I guess depends on how deep it is, right? Don't road hunt using a gas motor while scanning with forward-facing sonar.
Whoa. Stop there for a minute. So this guy makes it sound like forward-facing sonar gave birth to the notion of using your gas motor to find a fish.
Exactly.
Like before then, what did we do? We walked around on the surface of the lake like we didn't use our motor to find them?
Moses, we parted the water and watched them down. There they are down there. I get it. It's all part of learning how to use the equipment, right? So you just use it. So respect depth limits. Do not target muskies deeper than 25 feet.
All fish, by the way. Shouldn't just be muskies.
Limit handling. Reduce time out of the water. Of course, that's all fish again. Keep them wet. Unhook your fish in the net.
That's sonar? Sonar didn't have anything to do with that.
Be prepared. We have the proper tools, blah, 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 blah. So that's what their little pamphlet says.
Yeah, I think, especially reading that, I think they're more talking to new anglers who maybe buy live scope and they spot like a big mark out at 25 feet.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me that in your world, you see a place where a brand new angler who's never fished before is going to run out and invest $5,000 to $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in forward-facing sonar equipment on his boat?
Not necessarily a new angler, but a new muskie angler. Like even someone like me, I don't muskie fish ever, but if I turned my sonar and saw a huge mark out in 30 feet, I'm going to be like, well, how can I catch that thing? And if I'm not...
But even you, let's take you for an example.
Sure.
Let's use you. You're a great example.
Sure.
We're not. You are a great example. Would you spend $10,000, $12,000 to equip your boat with the latest technology for forward viewing sonar? Seriously, no, don't make anything up because of who you are and what you represent to the fishing community.
I would deck out a super cheap John boat with live scope. I wouldn't invest in a boat because I can't afford that, but I would make a little boat as efficient as possible with live scope. I think that's what I would do.
Okay. All right.
And that guy who, like me, if I have no idea about muskie fishing, don't know how sensitive they are. Like obviously I know that stuff, but someone in my shoes who just points their sonar out to deep water and sees a huge mark, and then all of a sudden I'm hooking muskie and don't know what to do with them. I think that's what they're scared of.
I think that Mr. Bowman and I have spent as much time on the water since this technology was introduced as the next guy. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that. With this technology I'm talking about, we have spent as much time on the water hunting for fish as the next guy. And I got to tell you, if you think the forward-facing sonar, or live scope in that case, all you have to do is just put it on your boat and the boat automatically goes to these fish. There's apparently fish everywhere that they're there. Let's get that one, Petey. Let's go over and get that one, Petey. It hasn't changed anything for us. The only thing that's changed is that we can now see them. We still have to go find them.
Some of them.
We
can't see them all.
The rest we can't see. We see a very tiny little sliver of what's going on out there. And as Pete just alluded to, that does not mean those fish are caught. In fact, most of the time, they're not caught. So, and now let's equate that to muskie, probably the most cunning of all predators in terms of being able to coax into a boat. I think that's amplified by 100. So I got to disagree with this, man. And it's not because I love this technology. It's not because we use it religiously. It's not because we're fortunate enough to have it. It's because I really don't think it's any different than the graphite rod or the electric trolling motor.
It's the evolution of fishing, really.
Exactly.
It's just the evolution of the sport.
I do wonder also,
more.
I'm kind of surprised muskie are taking like the first initiatives towards it because it's almost 100% catch and release. So if any fish could I understand if you're worried about like depleting a walleye fishery.
Meat hunters.
Yeah.
You're worried about meat
But
hunters.
the meat guys aren't coming in and eating
These
big muskie.
muskie guys aren't meat hunters. Like I said, they're hardcore at their game, and they're very hardcore at catch and release and putting back every fish they've ever caught, right?
I wonder how many serious, big-time muskie hunters that are listening to this program right now would agree with the notion that it is a tool that should be banned from that activity. Or is this, as you alluded to earlier, Dean, is this, most people that don't have it read about all these stories and, of course, the big tournament pros in the U.S. with their forward-facing sonar during bass tournaments looking for bedding fish and all that. I wonder how many of those are being influenced into thinking, yeah, I think we should just ban. I haven't got one, but I think we should ban it.
There is something to be said, too, that saying publicly that it should be banned gets you a lot of attention.
Exactly.
Like it is a very attractive thing to put online.
Oh,
about things
cottage
being banned.
associations, et cetera, like that, of course.
It definitely sparks.
You know what I mean?
Some views. So
Eagle Lake Resorts,
yeah,
local businesses.
Wow, I'm really perplexed over this. And maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just us because we do happen to be big believers in this technology. Just like I was a big believer in I fell for every single one of them, by the way, throughout the years.
Color selector?
My God, Dr. Hill with the color selector? Give me a break. I won't even tell you how much I've invested in that through the years, okay? But that's because that's the angler in me, right? We always want to experiment with something new. Fishing is what it is today because we haven't figured it out, because we don't have all the pieces in the puzzle. And therefore, every day, if we're given an opportunity to find one more little piece that we can put into the equation that will help us better understand, because honestly, we may sound like we understand it and we know exactly what there is to fishing, but that would be so false. And the reason that we're still at it 40 years later, by the way, is because we don't understand it.
Exactly.
Because every day we're compelled to learn more about them. And I think forward-facing sonar is just another one. In 5 years from now, forget 10 because the technology will be so old, antiquated. In 5 years from now, we won't be talking about this. There will be 5 other things that we'll be talking about banning because somebody says it's an unfair advantage. There is nothing in the fishing community right now, as far as I'm concerned, short of electroshocking, that I think is unfair in terms of a tool. I can't think of anything.
Yeah.
Is our 300 Mercury on the back of our boat unfair because we can get to places that other people
Guy with a 9.9
can't? It's unfair to the guy with the 9.9, maybe. If it's a contest, but it's not a contest. We use it because we can fish more water. We can eliminate more of the areas that don't have fish and therefore hopefully put ourselves in the areas that do have fish and therefore hopefully maybe with a little bit of luck from above, we can catch a fish or two.
And that guy with the 9.9, he might catch more than us because they might be all right there. We just traveled 200 miles down the lake. He's going to get them all right there.
Do you remember fishing a tournament on Scugog 100 years ago? And the guy who won it was fishing out of a 12-foot tin boat with a cooler and one of those pumps in the cooler to make it a live well. Do you don't remember?
No, but I do remember the Hartman brothers started out like that, didn't they? Didn't they have aluminum?
This was far more antiquated than that.
Oh, really?
Oh, like this was, and I want to say George. I want to say his name was George.
Yeah, I do remember.
Big man.
Big George. We called him Big George, I think. Yeah.
Do you remember? Little Coleman cooler in the middle of his 12-foot old beat-up tin boat with a little 9.9 on it. Well, guess what? Guess what? We all had the big fancy glass boats with the V6s at that time on them, and we had all the electronics that God would allow us to have back then, and every fishing rod and tackle known to mankind. This guy whooped our ass. You remember that?
Yeah, I do remember George.
Do you remember what he did?
No.
You don't remember
slop or something?
He went through the causeway.
Oh.
Because at that time, there was no out of bounds. So he went all the way down. The blast stop was at Caesarea. So you can imagine what it took him to come all the way down to Port Perry.
Big haul at a 9.9, that big man in the boat.
He went through the causeway and caught a limit
Good
of
for him.
4-pound bass in the first hour. The only hour he had to fish, because that's all he had time
Yeah.
for was an hour. Then he had to head back because it was 3 hours
That's
back.
awesome. Oh my God.
And he won the tournament.
There you go.
I had all the technology that money would buy. So.
George kicked your ass, eh?
Do you
Kicked
remember
our
him?
ass. I
He was a
I
great
remember
guy.
him. Yeah,
Great guy.
Yeah, I do remember about him. The name. As soon as you said George, I remember.
I'll
that.
never forget when the weigh-in time came, because we're all, with our big fancy and our shirts and our logos and
coverall.
all that.
Reno and used to have coveralls
Exactly.
and
And,
overalls.
we got to get the limelight and all that, and we're weighing in, and George was kind of hovering at the in front of the weigh-in, and everybody's going, what the hell's he waiting for out there? And we're all weighing in, and then the rumors started spreading, saying, that he's got a load of fish. I mean, oh, yeah, okay, get him over here. I'll never forget when he opened up the lid of the cooler. You couldn't see the bottom. It was all green. Talk about embarrassment.
Oh, God, good for George. Eh?
All
Good for
that
George.
to say, you still have to put him in the boat.
Yeah, for sure.
I will tell you, for keen anglers out there listening in, what this technology does do, it changes the game a little bit. And for those of us who maybe have been at this way too long, it added a kind of an exciting new element to the sport.
It really did add
did-
a lot for Ange and I. Like,
Oh, my
if it's just
God.
us two, but we know it's not just us two. We know it's
It changed the
everybody.
game.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Even for me, like I have a lake I've been going to my whole life, and I took live scope up 2 years ago for the first time, and it changed the way I saw the whole lake.
Yeah,
like, there were
exactly.
fish in places I didn't know they existed. They were moving in places I didn't know they went, and it was
There's weeds, there's
Yeah.
trees, there's rocks, there's cover structure, everything. Bait. Now you're starting to see what bait looks like. It adds a fun element too. Not just a learning thing, but it has a fun element to it too. You're kind of looking at why is that
And
there,
then-
this and that and the other.
Every once in a while, not often enough, but every once in a while, it all comes together.
Yep.
And what I mean by that is that now you can attribute that particular fish to being caught because of this new technology. Every once in a while, not often enough.
Yeah.
But Pete just alluded to a case in point that we were confronted with last week or the week after, where we knew there were 8 walleye. We knew specifically the species, because this technology allows you to kind of understand once you get used
figure
to
it once,
figure
then
out.
you know it's
what it is.
a patternish.
We
sort of thing.
knew that they were walleye, and we knew exactly where they were. And for 2 hours, we worked like nobody's ever worked before to try and get them. And then, boom.
Finally got one.
Got one.
The first one
And
first one we got was 50 feet away from the school of fish too. Remember?
Exactly,
That big one.
exactly.
And he was like, well, where did he come from? So
At that moment,
was a fluke.
the satisfaction that we got from putting it all together, being able to put them all together, we finally hit it, right? That probably would not have happened had we not had forward-facing
Would have been
sonar.
gone. We'd have been gone a long time ago. Gone for sure. No matter how good that structure looked,
Yeah.
we'd have been gone.
So in that case, yeah, it made a huge difference. What harm did it do to the fish population? I would ask.
I don't think any, because we could have kept them and ate them if we wanted to, but we
But
didn't
we don't do that.
We let them all go.
So if the fear is that maybe meat hunters shouldn't be allowed, but that's not a muskie angler.
No.
That is not
The furthest thing from a muskie angler.
Exactly.
Furthest thing.
And so I, full circle. I go back to this whole notion of eliminating that type of technology on that lake, on Eagle.
Yeah.
I got to shake my head, man.
Yeah. Me too.
I honestly have to shake my head. Unfortunately, I know some of you don't want to hear that because you might be involved in all this, and that's all well and good. Hey, this is not about, I hate you, you hate me, or he doesn't like this. No, we're all anglers, right?
Yep.
We have opinions. No shortage of opinions here.
Exactly. We have
And-
so many, another story coming up later here about the stripers and stuff
Same
like that.
thing.
So we all have opinions. There's sides to each one. So, yeah. It's kind of when you're going to the golf town now to buy a new driver, it ain't that
By the
old
way-
wooden driver that persimmon driver that you used to have 35 years ago. You got the latest, greatest titanium $1,000 unit. Go ahead. Did you look?
Yeah, I happened to be in a store the other day with Nick. Nick and I were, and he said, "Oh wow, there's that new XWZ driver." I said, "Yeah, what about it?" Oh, this baby, even if you've never played golf before, you pick this club up and it's 300 yards right down the middle of the fairway. And I said, Nick, come on. No, honestly, this driver's that good. That would be like now some golfers saying, no, you got to ban that driver. You can't put that on the PGA or whatever they're called, right?
Yep.
And we know that's bogus because in order for that driver to work, a lot of things have to happen. Mostly you have to be able to control that baby.
No kidding. So, it's funny because at a professional level, that is where there are drivers that are banned from the PGA. There are certain drivers. But then again, there's forward-facing sonars banned from BASS in certain days, or MLF certain days, and at BASS you're only allowed one unit compared to a bunch of them. So
why would they ban...
And MPFL is banned completely.
Okay, why would they ban that driver from the Professional Golf Association?
I don't know, Dean, you're a golfer. But is there?
What reason would they have? Because it's not for the shortage of being able to afford. I'm sure they could all afford that driver.
Oh God,
I think it's kind of like the corked bats thing in baseball.
Yeah.
It just adds an element where more people are going to be able to do extraordinary things, where you want like only the super talented to have to work harder for it. I think. It's like, why do you ban steroids in baseball?
I'm sure hockey sticks got some kind of regulations on them, don't they?
They used to have the severe
curve and everything.
Severe. Now, I don't think there is anything. You can use
Aren't they supposed to? You're supposed to be able to fit a toonie, or you're not supposed to be able to fit a toonie under it or something. Wasn't that a thing at one point? When it's on the ice, you can't fit a toonie standing up. Or something?
I know it was a Pandora's box when they opened that up in the 80s and early 90s, because then they soon discovered, holy crap, we can't patrol this enough to be able to because now everybody was doing all kinds of weird things with their sticks, that every game was being delayed by 10-15 minutes, because the first thing they would do is if that player either assisted or scored a goal, boom, the whole game gets shut down because the coach from the opposition says, oh, I want you to check that guy's stick. So they had to go find the stick. Now, sometimes the guy would get rid of that stick, so they had to find it somewhere else other than on his body, and then they would bring it, and then it's got to go in for measurement. Meanwhile, the audience is saying, wait, guys, play the game. So that's why I don't think that is around anymore. I haven't seen one infraction that involves an illegal stick for I don't know how many years.
Another thing in fishing, tournament fishing, is the umbrella rig, the Alabama rig. They've banned that in a lot of tournaments too now in the U.S.
That one I can almost understand, believe it or not.
A lot of hooks.
A lot of hooks.
Yeah.
And when there's a lot of hooks involved, there's a lot of things that can go wrong, including, in that particular case, catching more than one fish at a time.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that one, if there was one that I would justify, it should have been that one. I really do. That one, I think, makes it easier for anglers who don't have the skills to catch fish.
I am the total opposite of that. I've tried 2 years in a row. I've been trying on an A rig, and I still have not caught a single bass on an Alabama rig. Single. So I suck. I suck at an A-rig. So you can allow 30 hooks on my bait and I'll still be okay. The fish will be good and they're safe because I suck at it. I don't use it enough, but still, I should have caught one by now.
I guess bottom line is, if you have an opinion on this particular subject, I think you need to express it.
Give us a...
Not necessarily just with us, but to... where do they go for this, Dean?
We'll have the story on the site, so you'll be able to find these people.
FishingCanada.com will have the whole deal. And if you have an opinion on it, let them know. Obviously, we'd like to know, too, because we're always interested in what you're thinking.
Absolutely. For or against it, doesn't matter. Just let us know, please. How do they get a hold of us, Dean? How would they do that?
info@fishingcanada.com. On YouTube, if you make it a question, you could win a prize.
Ooh.
Or Instagram, anywhere you can find us on there.
Perfect.
Yep.
Love it.
All right.
Love it.
So wow, that was a long answer. We better move along here.
Good one there.
Smokes. What's next?
So we can either cover the news story from the East Coast that we had come in, or we can head to the fan question.
We could quickly talk. We should quickly talk about that, guys. I mean, this is nasty.
It almost deserves
a whole show.
Right?
But maybe
all right,
give the little tidbits of it.
All right, carry on.
Title, 2025-Fisheries Management Order requiring Gaspereau fishers in eastern New Brunswick to retain striped bass caught incidentally. So these Gaspereau are alewives. Basically, it's
it's I guess same
it's
family.
alewife. Yeah,
Is
it's
it?
an alewife. Yeah, it's the same thing.
I fished for them. I told you that. Fly fished.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
a big Gasparot there.
That's
It's
Nice
a Grand Gasparot. Basically, and the way I'm reading this, we're not going to read it all out because we'll get a whole show on this. But if you're fishing Gasparot, and the way I read this today, Ange, is that if you catch a striper, you have to keep it. You have to keep that fish and kill it. And you can keep 499 more, up to 500 stripers on this. And they call the stripers to address the threat. They're calling the stripers a threat.
Okay, so here's my issue with that, as I told Dean when I first saw this thing, is I've seen the Gasparot fishery. I've been there when the run is on, and I've been there when the fishing happens for them, and I've seen how they're caught.
Rod and reel? Rod and reel?
All net. You remember the nets on the Miramichi we didn't know what they were for, the nets along the shoreline, they just sort of come out and there's a little
big box necks, right?
Whatever they are, right? Same concept, except many more of them and a little bit smaller in the area that he took up. My concern is that these are net fish, right? These fish get trapped in a net, and then periodically, and I'm sure that the frequency changes depending on the run. But, let's say it's every 10 hours, 4 hours, a day, 2 days, whatever. Yeah. The fisherman goes and draws these nets in, and because they're gill nets, the Gasparot in this particular case are dead, and they pull them out of the net, throw them in the boat, and off they go. My concern is that any bass that's caught in there anyways, the chances of it being alive are zero.
That is only if gill nets are used. And if that's the case,
yes,
those openings are only going to be that big.
Exactly.
Gasparot. So a striper can't get in there.
They'll get fins. They'll get caught up in that stuff. You've seen those nets at work. I think there's a certain amount of discretion with the size of the openings that will maybe eliminate some fish, but not all.
And if they go the other way, if they're live nets, trap nets or whatever, even more so that they'll catch stripers in it for sure. Now, they could be released, obviously.
Those
you know what I mean? Those are the ones that could be released, but they're telling you if they're live nets, bring it on. 501, you're going to get charged, but if you have 500 or less, you're good.
On the Wolf River.
That's horrible.
Or whatever the river is called. It was at just outside of Wolfville, Nova Scotia at the time. If every one of those nets were to catch 500 stripers, because I'm not kidding you, there were literally hundreds of them. There wasn't 10 feet of river that didn't have a net somewhere. So those Gasparot, they don't stand a chance. Right?
Yeah.
And I don't even know how they still have Gasparot in that part of the world because, anyways, obviously they're heavily regulated, or at least I hope they are. But if those are the areas that these striped bass which now have a bounty on their head to the tune of 500 fish per occasion, I guess it is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, you could destroy an entire gene pool of a river in a matter of a couple of days.
Did you have to have a license to fish for Gasparot when you were there with rod and reel? Do you remember?
Geez, I don't remember.
Because it says here, holders of a license to fish for Gasparot must report to the DFO. So I'm wondering if maybe, or that might be the commercial guys versus the recreational.
That's probably commercial, because I don't imagine too many people recreate Gasparot, especially not on fly rods.
And the limit right now, I believe, is 10 or 20 at most. It's not, if it's 20, that's the max. It's either 10 or 20. So you're not allowed a whole lot when you're out. If you're rod and reel fishing, so that makes no sense if you're allowed 10 Gasparot and 500 stripers. Which
I don't think you could go out and catch 500. That's not what they're saying.
No, I'm just saying, but they're not saying it either, though. They're not. They're just saying Gasparot fishermen. They didn't even say commercial on this thing. So
I never even thought of that. Wow, that's a whole other.
There's no way you could, because they have a limit of 2 out there, right? So from normal, like when we were out with Jeff, I think it was 2 fish at a certain slot limit of size.
It did go up this year, I believe, though, for anglers as well.
Went up a lot if it goes to 500.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's obviously it's commercial, you know what I mean? But still,
the objection here is that the reason they're doing this, obviously, first of all, it's motivated by some group that is targeting striped bass and saying we need to get rid of striped bass because they're doing something against my belief. That's the first problem I have with that. which we happen to know that's the case, by the way, as we all know. And secondly, it's so it's indiscriminate eradication of a gene pool. Never mind striped bass as a whole, but each one of these rivers is a very distinct gene pool of fish. And you could literally, with these kind of very generous limits of 500 per, you could destroy an entire gene pool in a season or two.
Yeah, depending, for sure.
And that's the problem that I have with that, is that...
And it's not like it's your choice either. Any person fishing for Gaspereau in certain areas here who catches striped bass incidentally is required to retain the incidentally caught striped bass. Is required. And then it says the maximum quantity of an incidentally caught striped bass in a day that must be retained is 500. That's the way they worded it. And
how the hell are they going to police that?
This is the DFO writing this. So
how are they going to police that one?
Yeah.
That's an extraordinary...
They don't have to police it because they don't want to police it.
Right.
With numbers like this, with these stupid, ridiculous numbers, they don't want to police it. They just want to get rid of these fish.
They did have an interesting comment, too, by the Maritime Fishermen's Union, which is like the commercial fishing union out there. They were saying that striped bass in nets have surged over the years from as many as 5,000 to 25,000, making it impossible to sort their nets. So
what do you mean? What do you understand from that?
So essentially the number of accidental catches is going up, but right now they're required to sort through...
Throw them back.
To take out the stripers and everything.
Right. So that means they are alive, though, obviously.
Must be.
Right. Or now, throw them in a garbage can.
Where now they're saying it's going to be much easier for them because they can keep them all, so they don't need to sort the nets. They can just... Yeah.
Good one.
And you know what the shame of this is, folks? The shame is that we cannot find anywhere in, now this is the province of New Brunswick I'm talking, in all fairness, we haven't really invested the time in Nova Scotia, but in New Brunswick,
they got their own problems there.
We cannot find a place where we can pull over to a restaurant or a little, cafe or some kind of an eatery and just go in there and order a meal of stripers.
Yep.
They're non-existent.
Yeah.
So my question is, what are they going to do with these 500 per striped bass? Are they going to just throw them out? Is there a contingency plan? In other words, is there going to be a market for them? Are they going to feed
these guys that Dean's talking about? They would somehow, now they're going to find a use for it, right? Now they're saying, okay, now it's worth us sorting them out. So they must be trying to make some money out of it, I would think. Otherwise, they just still fire them back. All right, say, get out of my nets, get the hell out of my boat, sort of thing. But these guys, I'm sure they're gonna find some. Where does it go, though? You're right. Where does it go?
How long before somebody wakes up and says, "Wait a minute, I smell something nefarious going on"? So, first of all, you changed the regulations on the Miramichi not that long ago that allowed for, what was the number, guys? Do you remember? Was it 75,000 pounds or some ridiculous quota
with the Aboriginal thing?
Yeah,
I can't remember.
It says it here.
It's more than that,
an increase from 175,000 or from 50,000 to 175,000.
That's it. Yeah. So they increased that on striped bass on the Miramichi. All of a sudden, just like that, boom.
And there are only, by the way, around 345,000 returning fish. They figure that's the population that's in the river.
So 300, let's call it 400,000 for the sake of argument. Let's say they missed a few.
Yeah.
400,000, but yet they're allocating 175,000 in quota to, now we don't know how many anglers there are, not anglers, fishermen, commercial fisher, what the size of the commercial fishery, but we've been there.
It doesn't matter. It's one that they can make 175,000. Then we know there's an up there to get 175,000 fish.
That's half the population.
Yeah.
So they've done that there, sort of,
and that's one body
just
of
as
water.
a matter of fact, and one body. And now, if that's not enough, they're now challenging another fishery and ordering them to destroy a further 500 fish per.
Eastern New Brunswick, I would assume that Miramichi is in there.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Of course.
So it's they've added that to the pot of 175,000.
They wanted to, whoever's behind this,
Does not like stripers.
And I don't want to say DFO directly because that would not be a good thing to do. It's too easy to jump there. There is somebody behind them who is controlling DFO's decision-making, influencing better than controlling DFO's decision-making on this, because there's a hidden agenda that most of us either don't care. We have apathy or not apathy. We don't really care. So what? It's not going to affect you. You don't even go striper fishing. Let's be honest about it. And chances are you won't even get out of this province. But it doesn't matter. If there's an injustice to a piece of wildlife that is controlled by humans that is wrong, we need to jump on board. We need to talk about this fishery on the East Coast, even though most of us might never sample it, because that could give birth to ideas that will affect us personally, because somebody might use this as a means of saying, I think that smallmouth bass they're getting a little frisky out there. There's just too damn many of them. And we saw what happened down in New Brunswick. I mean, they got rid of that whole bass problem they had. Maybe I'll give them a call and see how they did that. Well, I know it sounds ridiculous. No, it sounds...
No, I'm laughing because there's a reality element to it. There is always that radical reality to it,
yeah.
Right?
If it can be done there, hell, I can do it here. And it just might be a cottager who's just sick and tired of him going up and fishing, bass in his bay. He might just say, I don't like him.
Throw rocks at me.
Anyways, we spent way more time on this than we should have. We do need to devote a whole show on this, Dean. If we could get some players that have got skin in the game.
I know one guy for sure.
Well, okay, I know. Jeff Wilson, and I agree. Jeff would love to come on, and God love him. I love him to death. But you know what? We need somebody from the other side of this story. We need maybe a commercial fisherman.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Who is in the Gaspro business.
Maybe right.
Because right now we're speculating how it's
throwing
happening.
Shit out of our mouths and we have no idea what we're talking about.
And we do that well, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I have reached out to some people from the Atlantic Salmon Federation stuff before.
They won't come out. They'll never come out, will they?
Not as much interest.
See, we got to get rid of that thinking.
I've tried.
Well, he's tried, and they don't want to come out.
Okay, so you tried. That's like, when your wife catches... Anyways, I don't want to...
Oh, Jesus. How many times that happened?
I don't want to get this. Sorry.
Jeez, you'd think you'd learn after once, Angelo.
I did not... let me just kind of suck that one
Catches you fishing for a smallmouth, right?
Yes,
Catches you fishing for smallmouth.
Exactly,
I got you covered, buddy. Don't you worry. Monique!
The point, where was I going with that point before I kind of put my foot squarely on my
That's awesome.
No, the point I'm trying to make is that we have to get information from all parties involved. If anybody who's got skin in this game has got a piece of the answer for us, right?
Yeah, and if they don't want to get involved, then shame on them. We'll get everybody else involved, right?
Yeah.
That's the problem. They have a chance to speak right here. So
we know we can attract a lot of people who are like thinking to us, because otherwise they wouldn't be listening to this program. Therefore, if we put the call out to people who have got something to say that are involved in the striped bass fishery on the East Coast and are opposed to these new, very, very weird, strange regulation changes, we could have 10 people right now. But I think we need to work a little harder than that to see if we can get people from the other side of the fence, because that's the only way we're going to learn. Right now, it's just speculation. I have no idea. Like 500 seems a lot to me. A lot of fish to call incidental catch. First of all, if you're setting your nets or putting them where you're going to get 500 extra incidental fish every time you lift, there's something wrong with the positioning of your nets. I do know that.
yes.
Right?
It's a pretty good striper spot.
You got to move them over here a little bit.
Give us the coordinates for that sucker. We could take that. We'll go do some fishing for them.
Anyways, Dean, I will challenge you before we have another show of this ilk. Mm-hmm. I'd like you to see if we can get somebody on.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe DFO?
Yeah, be nice.
Right? Maybe DFO.
How about the Minister of Natural Resources in New Brunswick? Would that
do we know him? Do we still know him?
or
We
her?
don't know him or her anymore.
We don't.
It used to be Mike Holland,
Used to be
right?
Mike Holland, yeah.
I wonder if we get.
What about Mike Holland?
Mike
Would he come
Holland
on?
would come
He'd
on,
probably
for
come
sure,
on.
yeah.
Even he's not there anymore, but he might.
He'd be an
he has some
interesting
good
one,
information, and he doesn't
sure.
have to worry about getting fired.
True.
You know what I mean?
Did he get fired or did he just quit?
No,
I don't know.
He's doing something else now.
He just moved on.
Yep.
Yeah.
He said from the outset he didn't want to be a politician, so
Well-
he did his time, got out.
Yeah.
Maybe it's.
Hey, that's the perfect guy for us then.
Yeah.
Goof.
Or maybe we can reach out to the Ontario Minister of Natural Resources, who might be able to help us.
Yep.
That's Harris Jr., right? Mike Harris Jr., I believe.
I think you're right.
Yeah, it is Mike Harris Jr.
So what would
He's a
he
big
know
fan of
about
the
this
show.
striper situation, though? Would he be able to dig into it
No,
and
but
find out?
but he would probably help us. We're good people.
Oh, we're all right.
We're good people.
We're all right. We can teach him all about forward facing, get him on our side with that,
Well,
too.
before somebody else
You know?
gets to him.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, that's enough of this nonsense.
That's enough of that bullshit.
Thank you.
It's a bunch of bullshit.
Thank you very much. Can we save the rest for another rainy day,
Sure
Dean?
we can. Sure
Because
we
we've
can.
gone way over time again.
Yeah, how long we been there today?
Oh, an hour.
An hour and 9 on just us yapping.
I know.
Holy.
I know. We're terrible. I apologize on behalf of Mr. Bowman.
Well,
He does
yeah, I
tend
do
to
ramble
rant
on.
a little
We did
bit.
have a good fan question, but it's going to be a long one.
Is it?
It's a very good question.
Can we make it short?
Can we use it another time? No? Or do we have to have it today? Like, I mean,
Well, you know, my mommy taught me never put on to tomorrow what you can do today.
it's not that long.
It's not that bad?
Okay.
All right, go for it.
This episode is brought to you by Angler's Leaderboard and its photo measure feature. Angler's Leaderboard makes every catch count by integrating seamlessly with their patent-pending AI-enabled fish measurement board. Now you can automatically measure catch length and detect species in seconds just by using your smartphone camera. It's fast, accurate, and reduces handling. So now you can release healthier fish and keep fishing for the big ones. Learn more at anglersleaderboard.com. Okay, this is sponsored by FishfinderMounts.com.
Hello. Who
Which
are
we
they?
use-
Who are they?
They are ones that help us use our forward-facing sonar amongst all the
Oh,
other transducers
baby.
and all the other stuff that we use on our boats, all good Garmin stuff and any other companies that you use. Very good equipment. Machined.
Look at this.
Look at it. Oh, my God. I remember that day very,
You
very
remember
well.
what those two? By the way, this is Nikki V and young Mr. Hunter Bowman, and we were shooting a commercial not far from here.
Rocket fishing rod.
That's
Remember
right.
that?
Yeah, and so we brought them up with us, and at a point where everybody was occupied doing this commercial, these two rascals disappeared.
Oh, yeah.
And what?
And we wondered where the hell were they? And then we could hear something in the background. We couldn't see. They friggin' stole this little remote, like a big, the
Car.
remote cars that the kids sit in and drive. All of a sudden we then get the hell back here. Hey, Daddy, Grandpa. Oh, my God. We laughed so friggin'. We wanted to give them shit, but we couldn't do it.
could.
Eh?
You could
Same
do
as at Fernley Lodge with the golf cart.
carts.
Oh, my God.
They had a penchant for stealing,
borrowing
vehicles from others.
Yeah. So this question, again, sponsored by FishermanderMounts.com, is from @ScottMurray128 via YouTube.
So is he qualified
He's
now?
qualified, yeah.
Okay. Hello.
So we're going to judge this, right?
Yep.
We
Yes,
give
you
him a
get-
thumbs up or thumbs down.
I'll
All right.
read it. You guys judge it, okay? Hello, gentlemen. He gets a prize right there. If he calls us gentlemen,
I like him.
he should be Scott Murray. Like many of the viewers/listeners, I have been a fan since the 80s and have grown up, like Nikki V, alongside the Fishing Canada show. I really appreciate the focus on Canadian waters, but also on Ontario. I just randomly found myself watching this episode, Algoma Walleye at Lodge 88. With, I'm assuming you and Nick, that episode. And it reminded me of all the great times I've had fishing with my own grandfather and dad. Getting to explore Ontario while learning to love both fishing and spending time with my family. Would any of you be willing to speak to the unique ways that fishing trips like this can help people, young and old, grow as people and come closer together? Thank you for everything you have done for the entire Ontario fishing community.
Wow.
Thanks, buddy.
What a great,
That's
no wonder
nice.
you said that. And that's a thumbs up, by the way. Whatever we're giving away,
Yeah.
give him.
Yeah,
give
Scotty. Scott Murray
Give
gets
to
it.
him.
Come
He
on
gets
now.
it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've been very fortunate to obviously having the benefactor of being able to bring my grandson out on shoots for the last, I don't know how many years.
Quite a few now.
It's been
right?
pre-pandemic? Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Pre-pandemic.
For
So
sure.
whatever that was, whatever that
For
means.
sure. And then he did his university stuff. He took a pause, but then he came back.
Yeah.
And he's back with us now.
Yeah.
So
And I don't know whether you can replicate. I don't know whether you can replicate that experience with anything else in fishing. That certainly that I know of, because it's kind of beyond where there is no. First of all, there's no set result. In other words, you can't measure it and say, "Hey, that was a really great experience or a really bad experience," because there's nothing else you can measure it to. Even if you're pissed off, even if you get pissed off, which I did, by the way, quite a bit. It was a challenge. It was a challenge.
You had a heart attack on one of them.
Well, yeah.
Jeez.
Even if you do, there's a certain amount of joy that
Oh, God, yeah.
friends, relatives, spouses, acquaintances, total strangers.
Yeah.
There's a certain experience that I believe can only be had in that environment. And I'm talking the outdoors / fishing environment. Because, right? Because it's twofold. First of all, you're experiencing the person-to-person interaction, but then you're experiencing it in this incredible,
Such an
theater
environment.
that is constantly moving and evolving and injecting you with feelings and smells and sounds and emotions that you just don't get sitting in a living room watching TV with somebody.
Yeah. And you got to remember, too, people listening and watching here, the level that we're doing it at isn't even what you get to do it at. You're at a better level than us because we're working out there. We're bringing Nick and Hunter and these guys are out working with us in that. And although it's nice and it's the ultimate job and blah, 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 it's still kind of work element to it and there's still some structure to it. When you take your kids, your grandkids up to a fishing camp, oh my God, and just go fishing, that'd be the best of the best, for sure.
And we see it a lot in these camps that we go to.
Last trip there, 2 trips. We had the 90-year-old. There was 3 generations there on the last trip at Pipestone, and then the one before that, the kids were at Hawk Lake. There was some kids in that dining room too.
And they've been doing it for years. So.
And husbands and wives too, stuff like that. So
you know what? The best thing I can equate it to and compare it to, and it's a conundrum as well. That is shore lunch. I've always said that if you could bottle the essence of a Canadian shore lunch and put it in a bottle and put a label on it and put it on the shelf and sell it, man, you would make a fortune because people would be coming back every day to get more of it. Well, an experience with another person in the outdoors, like a relative, friend, etc., is kind of like that. It's hard to put a name or express a feeling for it, but it is totally different than spending time with your buddy in Costa Rica or in Vegas or whatever the case may be, right?
Exactly.
It's totally...
Your mind is just at a different place.
It's totally...
And you leave a lot behind, too, in that world,
right? Oh,
my
God.
You don't really think about a whole lot back in the hustle and bustle, et cetera, et cetera.
That moment right there.
Oh, my God.
Hey,
that's
that moment right there is a good example.
Perfect picture. Speaking of shore lunch, Dino... coming up pretty soon, hey, buddy. Sorry, Ange.
Yeah, you guys.
Sorry about that, buddy.
Well, we'll fix you up before the end of the season, don't you worry. She's a long road to Tipperary, as they say.
I can't wait, honest to God. My first shore lunch this year, though. That will be nice.
Anyways, that's a great question.
Scott Murray. At Scott Murray, 128, via YouTube. Thank you, Scott. Well done.
So he gets something? Is that the deal?
$50 from the store manager's pocket.
No way.
I want to see him pull that right out of that wallet of his. He'll have to e-transfer.
I just saw somebody redeem one just before we went to the show.
What did they get?
They got 2 UV garments, a long sleeve button-up UV shirt, and then the other one, that reddish colored one.
Yeah.
Got one of those. Yeah. And I think 3 or 4
big spender.
Hats. One of each hat.
Shooter McGavin.
Well, he did good.
Thank you. Good. Awesome.
So there you go. Thank you very much. That's it, Dean. We covered it all, buddy.
Now we've got it done. Right?
Now we're overtime.
All right. We're out here. I want to thank you for spending a bit of time with us. Think about some of the stuff we said. If you've got opinions on some of these stories, please.
And remember, this is just our opinion, too.
Yeah.
You guys bring it on. We have no problem hearing it, so please.
On behalf of the entire team, Vova over there, Nick, who's over, he's offline here. He's
Logging
as we speak. Well,
he does a lot of logging in this place.
In this case,
Nick's like the ultimate logger of this place. For sure.
Dean over here.
A lot of time in the logging camp for that boy.
He's Peter Bowman. I'm Andrew Boyle. Thanks for joining us. Catch you next time. This episode of Outdoor Journal Radio has been brought to you in part by the Invasive Species Centre, protecting Canada's land and water from invasive species. Freedom Cruise Canada, rent the boat, own the memories. And J&B Cycle & Marine, your home for all things power sports, boats, and equipment.